DDG episode 62, the first of 2021. My name is Dave Hunt, and Happy New Year, Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? It's New Year. We're finally done with 2020, which means the world is fixed now, right?
Yeah, just like
That's
when
how
the
that
clock
works.
just flipped over and everything went back to
Just
how it was in 2019.
Yep, it's great. Everything is back to normal, and this is not a sequel to last year. I'm doing good, Dave. I'm doing pretty good.
The
It's been
best,
kind of crazy around here,
the best
but
meme I saw was when it was like December 31st at 11:59, and then it changed the clock over and it showed it changing, and they called it December 32nd, 2020. That was like the
yeah.
best like
Oh,
little meme. Like somebody was like stressing out like it's like an anime looking thing or like an anime GIF or something as it changed over and it didn't turn to January.
yeah. No, I posted one where it was like Randy Orton freaking out, and then the Undertaker came out of a casket. His December 32nd.
Yeah,
That was like the one I was like sharing like crazy. But so far, it's been okay. New Year has been pretty good. I mean, we're only 3 days in, and we haven't recorded in not to
yeah,
break the fourth wall. We haven't recorded in like 2 weeks,
yeah. Like
maybe a little
December
bit
like
more.
18th or 20th or something like that. Like the weekend.
Yeah, yeah,
The we haven't recorded since the weekend before Christmas.
yeah,
So
yeah. So it's been a little over 2 weeks, which is nice to get a little bit of a break, but we didn't miss a week of content, which
right.
was the goal.
Yeah. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly show that releases every Thursday at 6 a.m. for the last 61 consecutive weeks. It's always kind of cool to look back and look at stats and numbers and just see that, like it's not a huge streak like other podcasts have done the same or better over like a long-term time frame. But in order for us to have a good like quality life balance, hobby and, jobs and family balance, we pride ourselves on consistency for the community and for ourselves as well. But to take a step back, like you mentioned, and to be able to record a couple things that we could kind of like future proof record, like where they weren't like timely, and then to get also like really cool feedback on the Game of the Year show and the Look Ahead show, is always fascinating. We need to figure out a third one though, because we're recording too early. Like
Yeah, because
there's
the video
nothing
game
going
industry.
on. So
We're recording on a Monday afternoon, and the video game industry's only been working for maybe a couple hours
yeah.
because they get the nice breaks. So yeah, you'll find out news is a little light this week, but luckily me and Dave played some video games.
Yeah. So if you are listening to the show, thank you so much for finding us. If you're the first time here, please consider subscribing and leaving a review if at all possible. As we go into 2021, the goal obviously will just be to continue to grow the show and to grow the community. And we do that through all of our social feeds, which are linked in the show notes. If you're watching us on Twitch, thank you, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where you guys should really check your Twitch subscriptions, please. I know we haven't recorded in a while, so check it. Just click the button. That'd be great. Just to help help offset some costs. But we do typically record on Mondays in the evening. I'm working overnights again this week, so we're recording a little earlier than normal. But other than that, we will get into the super light news.
Yeah. So first story that I put on here just started to break over the last day or so. A Japanese retailer basically marked a bunch of the consoles as discontinued for the PlayStation 4. This isn't too surprising, but the way Sony usually handles this is they quietly discontinue things, and this is exactly how they were going to handle this, where they just quietly let retailers in Japan know that several models are discontinued, and basically we're at the point now in the PS4's life cycle that they're likely not going to produce any new ones. They're just going to run through whatever inventory that they currently have.
Which is probably still a lot.
It's probably still a lot. The models that this Japanese retailer said were discontinued is a 500 gig Glacier White system, 1 terabyte Jet Black, 1 terabyte Glacier White, 2 terabyte Jet Black, and then a PS4 Pro Glacier White. The Japanese market tends to get the different colored systems more than the U.S. market does. It's always limited here, but over there they tend to stick around. Like the Glacier White, I don't think you could find in a store in the U.S.
I thought it
that
was just
often.
bundled with a game. I think it was really the only way.
Yeah,
Like it was like a special edition or something.
Yeah, so those are just standalone available over in Japan. But it looks like those are all being discontinued. Again, this isn't super surprising. Xbox did the same thing back in the summer. They announced which the last gen consoles they're no longer producing. So we knew that going in. And then PS4, which I honestly, those numbers could be low because I haven't seen a PS4 in a store since like month 2 of the pandemic.
Right. Well, that had to do with obviously the pandemic. It was people were like, "Oh, I'm home, so I might as well pick something up," and they start doing research. And at the time, like 6, 7, 8 months ago, and still relevant now, PlayStation in terms of entry level for a hardware was more popular. I think in terms of like access to content. If somebody was going to say, "I need something to take up my time," I think that I would recommend an Xbox right now, even an Xbox One. With a Game Pass subscription. But it is interesting when the PS5 is so hard to find, and then like we've been talking about for a little while, the lack of exclusive PS5 content right now, even 2 months almost, 60 days post launch, is still like super fascinating to me that there is the possibility of them discontinuing something that sold so well. It's a top 5 console seller of all time. But you reading over that list, the couple things that I took away right away is like I didn't see any mentions of the Slims being discontinued, which is pretty much what you've seen mostly. I don't even know if you can get an original non-Slim, non-Pro anymore. And then the regular Black Pro is still, didn't say that it was being discontinued, and I didn't really see very many different color pros. I just saw special edition pros like the Spider-Man Pro.
Yeah, there's only special edition pros.
So I think the core that they're just not. I mean, if they're going to spend any time doing cool different systems, they're going to be PS5s.
Yeah, and this always happens though because like they have to turn the factories that are making PS4s into producing PS5s. Do you see Sony, based on how like Cyberpunk went down on the base systems, do you see them producing more pros and then dropping the pro price even more and making pro like the only PS4 you can get?
I think that it's smart of them to do that in terms of the way that cross-gen gaming is working right now. I think that the huge answer to that question will obviously be how a game like God of War or Horizon. We know Horizon's coming to PS4, Horizon 2, and then I believe God of War will come to PS4 as well currently, unless it's pushed into 2022. That I think that it's smart, but it's not going to fix their problem because they before the Pro came out. I mean, what is there? 75 million, 80 million guaranteed just standard PS4s in the world.
Yeah, it's a huge market. But like if you just look at like the standard PS4 on PlayStation Direct, their website, a base PS4 is still $299.
Right, and the Pro is $399, right?
Yeah.
I think that if they brought the Pro down to $299, I think that anybody that's purchasing a system and sees both of them and sees 4K and not 4K for the same price would just get the 4K one, even if it's like a checkerboarded 4K or whatever.
Yeah, and it looks like PlayStation Direct is just sold out of that base PS4 anyways.
Right.
So
is that the slim model though?
Yeah, that's a slim model.
Okay.
And it's just flat out sold out on the PlayStation Direct website. And then, trying to see. They don't even list the PS4 Pro on their website right away. That's so weird. Yeah, maybe they just get rid of the Pro, but the Pro is the only thing that can really run new games at this point.
Right.
It would be interesting to see Sony make like an official announcement on what they're gonna do with that model, especially with Horizon still listed.
Yeah, in terms of like
coming.
The comparison to Xbox, like separate, the PS4 to PS5 is very much separate functionality. Like it knows that it's a PS5 and it knows it's a PS4. The UI is different. The Xbox is, the one to the series. UI and functionality seems to be the same. and it doesn't even, it just, and you'll talk about this next, but it just knows what it's supposed to do based on what you have. Like I've seen, like I've been putzing around on YouTube. I've seen people like try to plug a external Blu-ray drive into the Series S, as well as the discless, as well as the digital PS5, and the digital PS5 just doesn't read it, and the Xbox reads it and says, "You have a console that doesn't support a disc drive."
Yeah.
So, and it'll also tell you. I mean, I've heard people that have been gone back and forth on their Xbox One and their Xbox Series of like where the Xbox will similar to what PlayStation does, downloads the wrong version of a game and tells you like you're trying to play a Series X. I mean, a series version of a game on the Xbox One. It says you don't have the proper console. So it knows those things versus the weird things that we've seen with some of the cross save functionality having a hard time with PS4 to 5, the trophy syncing and integration having a hard time to PS4 to PS5. They seem to have I wouldn't say separated, but a fractured connection between the two of them as functioning systems.
Yeah, there are two different approaches to how they want to do things. Xbox is trying to juggle multiple generations, and even that isn't going well. Yeah, well, no, but like Sony at least has like a little bit of a cutoff of like this is this ecosystem, that's this ecosystem. It's not great, and then Xbox is just like, oh, it's just one ecosystem, and that's also not great. As someone who's trying to learn the Xbox store with my first Xbox console and being like, man, this store chugs like a motherfucker. But at least it has like organization and search that the PlayStation store doesn't have.
And I only really mess with the store on my phone.
Too much.
Even when I'm downloading a Game Pass game or something like that, everything's just always done on my phone.
Yeah, I couldn't really get the Xbox. There's no like Xbox Store app, is there?
There's an Xbox
like, you can manage
and then a Game Pass app.
You can manage your Game Pass through the Xbox app, but you can't really go to the store like you would. Like I think you just have to go through. I
haven't bought anything on the Xbox yet.
Yeah. I've been trying to buy stuff. I've been trying to give Microsoft my money.
I don't really need to because the Game Pass has almost there's enough in there.
I'm trying to like play some older games, and I'm like, oh, I always wanted to play this that aren't on Game Pass, and I've been trying to give Xbox my money, and I had to load up the 360 store on my PC, and that was a terrible experience because they have not paid any attention to the 360 marketplace on PC. Just because I just wanted to buy like Left 4 Dead. I wanted to buy Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah.
And I couldn't on the console. It just said unavailable. Like it was a picture of it when you go to backwards compatible titles. You click on it and say you can't do anything with this. So then I had to go load up the 360 on Xbox.com, and that was taking forever just for it to process my payment and add it to cart.
I would have to check on there. I mean, I've purchased a couple of the things on the Switch store recently. Obviously, some gifts for Owen for Christmas, and on PlayStation store. But I've just done everything like on my phone. For the PlayStation store, I haven't really messed with the Xbox store either on my phone or on the console. I've downloaded stuff from Game Pass like onto my phone or from my phone.
Oh yeah, that's super easy. Like it just shows you the picture of the Game Pass games. You click it, you're good. Mm-hmm. But the store, like I didn't really see a store option. Like I got kicked to the browser a couple times, and that wasn't a great experience. But on the PlayStation store on console, on the actual console itself, I absolutely hate it. Like it's the worst. I complained about this in our Patreon episode for December, but I just want to give these console manufacturers my money, and neither one of them seems very interested in my money in terms of like discoverability. I almost missed the PS3 store, even though that was a piece of shit. I at least knew that store well enough, and the current PS4 store is fine, though now it's at the point where there's so much content in it, it's chugging. But yeah, I remember I spent this past weekend just like messing with the Xbox app, be like, why is there no store thing like on the PlayStation app? And just struggling to give them money. Let me move on to the next story before I just start ranting about how these companies won't take my money. So you talked about it earlier, but PS5 now gives a warning when you're going to play the PS4 version of a cross-gen game. I just put this in here because this is one of the many things that people have been wanting for PS5, especially Like it's been kind of confusing for like Call of Duty players and various other cross-platform games. So I just called this almost smart delivery. Um, Only reason I put this in here outside of it's a slow news week is just because it's at least showing that Sony is listening enough to know what problems there are, and they are slowly fixing it and trying to get it up to like a better usability, which is nice. This is definitely something we needed. I know like Assassin's Creed game did that to me where I was like, I don't know what version of this I'm playing. Warzone did this where I didn't know, not Warzone because Warzone, one of the Call of Duty games, basically did the same thing to me. But I know this is something that you've also been wanting to get fixed as you've been doing some cross-platform gaming.
Yeah. I mean, like this is fine. Like the warning, I think that again, it should just do it. I think that it should know that you're playing a PS5 and it should just download it. I don't, but I guess at the same time, like this gets into that problem with the two again with the what I call the fractured connection between the two consoles. Like, let's say that. Maybe I don't even really know the best way to explain this, but you're playing something that's backward compatible that doesn't have a PS5 version. You can actually still use DualShock 4s. You can play on the PS5 and use a DualShock 4.
Yeah.
So this kind of gets into some of that weird scenarios of where like maybe you want the PS4 version on your system if there's a PS4 and a PS5 upgrade. I guess maybe like the best example might be like Call of Duty if you're playing like split screen with like your kid or your significant other.
Yeah, or if you're like me, you have the Astro controller.
Yeah.
And you really want to use that for a competitive shooter, though I've just gotten used to the DualSense.
Right. So I mean I think that that's there is obviously like justification for that as they're waiting for like some of the hardware stuff to catch up, but I feel like at that point in time like they should just figure something out in the firmware to make the DualShock work. Like and eliminate this problem. Like, so if you have like an Evo controller, let's say, or like you said, like the Astro controller, and you have a PS5, you're not getting 4K resolution on Call of Duty Cold War because you want to use your competitive controller. I think that kind of sucks.
Yeah, there's ways, especially you can turn off the vibration. You can turn off the adaptive triggers. You can basically turn off all the features that make the DualSense controller. So the idea that you can't use your DualShock 4 is just kind of crazy.
Right.
Just like take all the features away from all the new features from a DualSense. You have a DualShock.
Especially in a game that doesn't really use it. Like I mean, I've played Immortals, and Immortals doesn't really use it. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but I don't feel like Spider-Man Remastered used it. I feel like Miles Morales did.
Miles, but it was mostly just feeling as opposed to
it's just
like
you could actually kind of like
tactile.
Yeah, it was just more or less like when you're web slinging, you could feel like him shooting it out and then it attaching to something, and then I guess you could almost feel like the pressure, like as you were swinging, you could feel like you could tell that what they were trying to implement, but. That is probably, not to change the entire topic, but that's probably like the feature that I care about the least or just don't even notice. And I haven't played Astro to be like, oh, this is really...
Okay, so, and I played Astro, and that was the one thing that I was like disappointed with the PS5, is because everyone talked up the DualSense controller, and I got it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, but I don't notice it enough.
It's 60 days. It's 60 days later, and I just spent a significant amount of time playing 2 PlayStation exclusive games, and... If you didn't, I mean, after like 20 minutes of holding a controller, like this is the same thing that I have with if I'm playing Xbox, Switch, PlayStation 4. After like 20 minutes of holding the controller, if you put a blindfold on my face and said, what controller are you using right now? A DualShock 4, a DualShock or a DualSense, or a Switch Pro controller, like I don't know if I could tell you without looking down.
Okay, I think that might be hyperbole, but
no, but I meant like there's nothing in there that's like I could like that could be. This controller does this, and that's why I'm using this controller. There's there's no need. Right.
At least there's nothing that I like. If I played Miles with a DualShock, which you can on a PS4, obviously, I wouldn't feel like I'm losing anything from the experience.
Right.
Like I haven't had that game that made me go outside of Astro, but even in Astro is just kind of like a cool tech demo game. So like Astro's the only game that like I felt like, okay, you need a DualSense for this, but even then, the stuff you do in it that you needed is this kind of gimmicky stuff.
And I think that this has to do with the 6, 8, 9 months ago, PlayStation and Jim Ryan came out and said, we believe in generations. And so we thought that going into the PS5 that there would be a substantial reason for the DualSense. And then now I don't see it, because the only thing that you can play on the PlayStation 5 currently that you can't play on any other platform is Demon Souls.
Yeah, Demon Souls and Astro.
Right. Okay, Astro.
Yeah.
But you can't. I don't think you can. You just go to. You can't go to the store and buy Astro. Like, it's not available, right?
It's already pre-installed on
Right.
your system. So
So
I don't know what happens if you delete Astro though. Like,
I'm sure you
if
just
it's-
own it.
Gets linked
It's
to your account.
it's in your
Yeah.
library, I'm sure. But that, and again, I'm not digging on Astro, but like Astro is like Wii Sports.
Yeah, but like not as impactful as Wii Sports. But yeah,
Right. Yeah, and that's
I
what
get
it
that.
is. It's like the Wii isn't what it is without Wii Sports. The DualSense probably isn't what it is without the DualSense. But does that mean that God of War Ragnarok is going to use the DualSense? No. Like, it'll have some cool things on there, but you'll be able to do
I was
them
gonna say
without
there's
it.
some cool,
You'll be
there's
able to
some
do
cool
it without
things
it.
that yeah, and that's only if the developers don't go super far. With
Any
the DualSense.
developer that
Like,
makes a multi-platform game isn't going to go super far with it. And then
oh yeah, but like I expect Sony, like I expect God of War to use the DualSense in cool ways. Is it going to be like I can't imagine playing without the DualSense? No, but there'll probably be some cool things from first-party games. And I'm sure the DualSense is going to make me even worse at MLB The Show, as they find ways to use the adaptive triggers to.
do you think
implement that
God of
into the
War?
game.
Let's speculate that God of War is going to be on PS4 and 5. Let's just speculate that for the moment. So they're going to develop a feature specifically for a controller for a platform but they're also going to have to make a way for it not to work,
Yes, yeah.
as well
Yeah,
as they will with Horizon.
As a Sony developer, I believe they are required to. Like they're gonna have to, but it's gonna be like, oh, since
I just feel like the
little
touchpad,
key-
a year after launch, the touchpad turned into an extra button. That's what it turned
yeah,
into.
yeah, but
so.
the adaptive triggers is something that like I forget the little kid's name, Loki. He has a bow and arrow. They're probably going to use the adaptive triggers for the bow and arrow. You could probably do some cool things with Kratos' axe with the adaptive triggers. So there's stuff that they could definitely do with the adaptive triggers that obviously will be exclusive to the PS5 version of that game. And that won't really affect, because again, you can turn off all the adaptive trigger features in the settings of the console, so that you basically just have a DualSense controller at that, or a DualShock. And then the vibration is just a vibration.
Yeah,
Like,
I
don't
just
think that's,
feel like
game-changing.
this is a feature that's cool, and it's a thing that it can do, similar to like the touchpad, like I mentioned, and like the light bar. And then 2 years later, we realized like, damn, this light bar is like so bright, I can't play this game like laying down on my couch, because this thing is like reflecting off the wall.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then all of a sudden we had a firmware update that you had a dimmable light bar, or people believed that the light bar like affected their battery use.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, like this might end up being one of those things where like as the controller ages, you're going to start seeing like haptic feedback cuts your battery life in half.
Oh no, we're definitely going to see stuff like that for sure. But like Sony first-party studios are going to take advantage of the hardware they have, either because they have to or because they want to.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like any of the features in the DualSense are too taxing on like development time, that it's going to like break the studio to like have features, having special vibration
I guess
and special
when
triggers.
they spent all the time talking about the controller before launch and everything, like I expected this to have similar impact on gaming as like the Wiimote did, and I don't see it. Like I don't see somebody at Microsoft or Sony, or I'm sorry, at Microsoft or Nintendo looking at the DualSense and going, okay, we got to figure out our own thing. Like I don't see them being worried about that.
Xbox has had the adaptive trigger since last gen,
Right.
for their like elite controllers and stuff, except no one used it and their controller was too expensive. I do think that the DualSense controller is going to be that thing though. this will be the standard that they'll have to reiterate on for the foreseeable future. You know, like next gen will have all the features the DualSense had, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in the DualSense that you're like, oh, you don't need that shit, other than the light bar. Because now the light bar has even less point because it's not usable for PlayStation Move.
Yeah.
So that's like the only thing that I think that they don't need is the light bar. But everything else is fine. I mean, maybe make the trackpad smaller just because it's
Yeah.
not
I
being
like
used
the
by anything.
controller, and compared to like a DualShock 4, like I like the controller. I mean, I feel like the D-pad is fine, and the sticks I'm having, you know, the analog sticks I'm not having any issues with. So I mean, I'm not against the controller, but I don't think that's as an innovative of a thing as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. Especially there was a lot of hype coming out of like the preview cycle and stuff over the DualSense controller. But I think it is an improvement over the DualShock 4.
Yeah.
That's all I had for news. If you want to just jump into playing and watching, because we got 2 weeks worth.
Yeah. All right. So people can stop giving me crap. I have played and completed Spider-Man on PS5, the remastered version, as well as all of the DLC for The City Never Sleeps. And I have played and completed Miles Morales.
Nice.
I jumped right from Spider-Man Remastered into Miles Morales and then went back to Spider-Man Remastered to play the DLC. Might not have been the best choice, but I was kind of ready for like a different change. And then first off, a couple people in the Facebook group asked, in terms of like, does Miles feel different than Parker? He does. His combat I feel like Miles' combat is better than Peter's combat. More fun, more rewarding. I've gotten a little bit better as I've been doing some cleanup stuff in Spider-Man, in Peter Parker's campaign. I've gotten better at the campaign, and as I'm, continuing to like fill out the skill tree and get all the suits unlocked and get all the suit mods that go with it, I can definitely see the potential there. I think it's really like, and again, I wasn't spoiled at all. I didn't know like the storylines or anything like that, so there wasn't anything that I felt like I didn't know or that I knew going into either one of the games. And I feel like that the campaign wise, like they were great. The storytelling wise, they were great. They're in Spider-Man, the remastered version. They throw a lot of enemies at you, like in terms of like villains, like fast. Like there was a turning point where it's like, okay, here's 6.
So, I mean, they were building to the Sinister Six, but yeah, it was definitely like.
I don't know like the whole
them.
ins and outs of like of Spider-Man. I didn't see anybody that I didn't recognize because I've watched like Spider-Man the animated stuff like as a kid, so I didn't really see any characters I didn't recognize. I think they could have done a little bit of a better job explaining who the characters were. Like if somebody didn't know the Spider-Man universe and this was their first introduction to it, it definitely was. There's a point in the campaign where it's like, okay, the shit's hit the fan. Like, so.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things where I appreciated it, but they do throw a lot at you. But I guess it just works with the lore because it's like this is an established Peter Parker, so they just wanted to be like, there's no time for exposition on like who these people are. But they could have done more like in-world stuff about like, oh, here's this person that I found through like the collectibles and all that.
I am going to probably talk a little bit more spoiler-ish around Spider-Man, and I'll have more caution when I'm talking about Miles. So this is just a warning for anybody. If you haven't played Spider-Man, the remastered version, probably, and you're worried about it, like maybe shut it down. It's almost 2 years old, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
So like getting to play in Spider-Man as Miles, I think was really cool. Getting to play as MJ, I think was really cool. I was getting a lot of Uncharted vibes while doing some of that stuff, playing as different characters.
You didn't think that stuff kind of dragged? Because by like the third time I played as like Miles and Mary Jane, I was just kind of like, just let me be Spider-Man.
I was starting to get a little bit more annoyed playing as Miles, but for like I feel like the MJ stuff just fit into the story very well. The Miles stuff I think fit into the story okay. The MJ stuff I just think fit really well. And then but I didn't. The things that got the most annoying to me, if you want to know the thing that I felt like is the most annoying in Spider-Man, was the enemy bases, bunkers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. And you like Ubisoft games. So
I do. The biggest problem that I had with it was the wave system. So it rewarded you for being sneaky, but then it punished you at a certain point in time for being sneaky. And it's like, if I can go through and eliminate the first wave of people, why do I get noticed immediately when the second wave starts and it just turns into combat for waves 2 through 6?
Yeah, I could see that being a little clunky. I enjoyed the stealth, and then when it broke down, I had no problem with it because I was Spider-Man. So you just
Yeah, but the couple times that I would die by level 2, like in wave 2, 3, or 4, if I died, and it put you back to wave 1, I would be like, all right, screw it. I'm just gonna jump down and start fighting people. Like, I'm not gonna go through wave 1 stealthy. Like, this is annoying because they're already all gonna come out anyways. So it's like, now, with that said, do you think that I think that would want to do 6 waves in all perch takedown stealthy? No, that would be like annoying as well.
I was the opposite. I totally did that. Like,
you can't do it though. You can't do all 6 waves that way.
You can.
Every time that wave 2 started for me, I got noticed. I would eliminate the last enemy. I'd be up high, and I would do a safe takedown of the last enemy, and then the screen would say wave 2, and all of a sudden my spidey sense would go off, and people would see me. Every time.
See, there was certain ones where I was able to like stealth the entire thing.
So I mean, yeah, if you could do it, like I wouldn't be opposed to doing it. But a couple times I was trying to go for like the 100 hit combo. Working on a bunch of that stuff. But so in terms of like foreshadowing and what they were building, like that was fine. The DLC, I would love to see other games handle the DLC structure just like they did. I think they did an awesome job of using like 2 or 3 districts at a time per DLC. So again, it didn't feel like super overwhelming. I do have like the open world fatigue issues. Like when I look at the save files, like it's 78% complete. I haven't done a lot of the Osborne research tech facilities in the main campaign. I haven't done some of the other little weird quirky things that's like the Taskmaster stuff. I haven't really.
Those get tough.
Yeah.
The Taskmaster ones get pretty tough.
So like, I mean, I eventually might clean those up. I have like 100%ed like 2 of the 3 DLCs, just because again those are smaller like burrows and they're a little easier. I feel like, but I enjoy it. The gameplay is 100% rock solid. Like this is, this is the way to combat wise and functionality, like everything worked, like climbing the walls and traversal and swinging and the combat and chaining attacks together, like and just having fun. Like I keep going back to it. I even booted it up today after I woke up after sleeping for a little while and just kind of played for a little bit and just knocked out a couple more things. I could see myself eventually earning a bunch of trophies in this game, and going back through and doing those. I think I'm at like 50% or something. Most of it's like collect all these and find all these, and the suit mechanic is cool as well. Like putting the different suits on the end of the carrot for you, like, oh, you need more of these tokens to get this, and like that looks cool, and then it gets you a new suit power. Like I think they handled all of that flawlessly, like fantastically. And then the Miles, going into Miles Morales, like that was enough of a fresh reboot, not a reboot, but a change. And using the same map, like jumping from one game to the next, like it was fine. Like that didn't bother me. You could definitely see the little things like that. He's, I like the little details of him struggling and going back and forth between Parker and Miles. I noticed this more of like not struggling, but he doesn't have the finesse that Parker has when he's flying through the air.
Yeah, you can see him just like struggle just a little bit when he's doing stuff. He doesn't have the same style.
The Spider-Verse suit was really cool. I turned on some of that Spider-Verse universe stuff. That stuff felt weird. Like I had a hard like it felt like very jagged and janky to me. Like I actually had to turn it off. Like the mods
which is the point of it. But like it definitely, like I turned it on and I think I played Miles for like an hour like that, and then I was just like, I got to go back to
being in the suit was cool. Doing all that and the glitchiness of the suit, like that, like visually that looked cool. But like playing when you're swinging through the air and you're trying to go from certain point to certain point and use a little bit of precision, like trying to focus on that made it hard. But I truly enjoyed the countless hours that I played of this game over the holidays. I'm happy that I waited just so I could just play everything together and kind of play that as a cohesive unit of all of it. And I'm pretty stoked to see what they're going to do next. The stuff that they were teasing at the end of Spider-Man Remastered, that the storyline that continued into Miles Morales of. I would assume that the next game will be a Peter Parker base game, maybe with some Miles sprinkled in there. it looks interesting. So I guess if I had to ask, I think you're going overseas.
Maybe. I just don't see him outside of New York, but I could totally
Well, I think that
be down with that.
if Insomniac does, and they are, I believe they are, a Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
I think that they would get a lot of crap if it's in the exact same map.
Yeah.
I understand
I'm
what you're
thinking they can
saying.
do.
I
Yeah.
understand 100% what you're saying about taking Spider-Man out of New York is like uncanon. But at the same time, I think that if you, I think that the if you charge $70 for Spider-Man 2 and it's the exact same map and the exact same
I mean,
Spider-Man,
they can
like
expand New York so it's
How-
not just Manhattan
yeah, but
because
I mean,
they only have Manhattan.
yeah,
But I don't know
it's-
if
yeah.
all the boroughs would work for Spider-Man. Yeah, if anything, I can see them.
You know what I'm talking
Having you
about, but going
play-
overseas though, right? You know what I'm with?
Yeah, that's that. I can see them maybe doing that, and because you're gonna, I guarantee you're playing as both of them in the next game. That maybe you do Miles in New York, and then overseas you have Spider-Man doing whatever he has to do. Yeah, Glorious War says Queens and Brooklyn could be added easily, but that would be the only thing I can think
for a
of doing.
sequel though. Like, yeah, I guess if you're, to your point, if you're playing as Miles in New York and he goes into Queens and Brooklyn, that works. And if there's things that are happening, but then to have okay, so I don't know exactly how many hours I spent on it, but to have another 15 to 25 hour campaign, which is what I would expect Spider-Man 2 to be, agreed?
Yeah, because they would probably have to do under 30 hours again.
Yeah. I think that Queens and Brooklyn don't cover that.
But I would be fine playing as New York again. I would. Maybe you wouldn't because you just played 2.5 games basically over the course of a week.
Yeah.
To where you might be done with New York, but there was a 2-year gap
Yeah. No,
between when I played them.
I don't know. I just think that if they could figure out a way to make it work, like I'd be all for it. But I just, unless you spent more time going in the buildings, like, and that would be the thing that would, I think, obviously they controlled what buildings you went into based on what was going on in the story. I guess if you had a little bit more open world freedom to go into the buildings, maybe that would help, or underground more.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. There's definitely some. I mean, if they wanted to get Spider-Verse-y, they could definitely still stay in New York, but change New York up dramatically.
That's true.
If you do some Spider-Verse stuff.
I could see. I would love to see the raft. I don't think it was used as much as it could have been, but I would love to see an Arkham Asylum type thing with Spider-Man for something like that.
For sure.
And using the raft.
Using their super prison would be pretty.
Yeah,
pretty damn cool.
Yeah. And then so I think that like something like that could be safe, because I got a ton of, like I said, when we were playing as the other characters, a lot of Uncharted vibes to it, but the combat gave me a ton of Arkham vibes.
Yeah, I feel like every superhero game has just been copied, like the Arkham feel.
And that's great. Like all that this did for me right now is make me want to go back and play Arkham Knight, because I haven't finished it, and that's like now I just have this desire to play Arkham Knight. So that's probably actually might end up being next on my thing that I try to keep working on, because I just, again, I don't have a tangible attachment to superheroes or comic books. I enjoy them for what they are. And I had a fantastic time playing as Spider-Man, and the stuff that, like the little hints or things that they're talking about that you're like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, all right, I don't know. I don't, it doesn't hit that deep for me, but at the same time, like, if you're looking for, like we've always talked about since we started this, if you're looking for a safe game to buy for anybody, Spider-Man and Miles is the way to go.
Oh yeah,
you buy somebody you can buy somebody a PlayStation 4 right now, and those two games, and they're set for like a month, depending on how much they play. Like they're more than a month, and they're set with great games.
Oh yeah, that encourages you to play multiple times with the New Game Plus, though it's not absolutely necessary. But
right. I will say that I'll be more apt to do a New Game Plus playthrough of Miles than I will be a Spider-Man.
Yeah, because Miles is like, I think Miles took me like 8 hours to.
I beat
finish.
Miles in a day. Like I started playing at noon, and I was done I think I stopped to maybe eat. Maybe I didn't even stop. It's probably embarrassing or not, but I think I started playing at like 11 or noon in the and I was done by like 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. I think it took me like 8 hours, and that's just like binging the story. Which I've been meaning to like clean up to get the platinum, just because I just gotta finish it New Game Plus, but that shouldn't take too long since I've been through everything. What else have you been playing?
That was pretty much it since break. I mean, like going up into Christmas, leading up into Christmas, work was pretty hectic, and then I started playing Spider-Man. And what else have I been playing? That's enough, isn't it?
For you, yes, it is definitely enough. No, Destiny. That DLC came out, and you played it for like a week, and then you kind of stopped talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dabbling in and out of it, but I did some of the Dawning stuff, like because it's their holiday event, so I was doing a couple things. It ends like this week. But I haven't. I did a little bit of like a little bit of raiding, but still haven't completed that. So there's nothing, like happening right now in there that's like drawing my attention. It's there. I'll go back and check it out and do something when there's something new to do. But they're doing the content seasonal drip stuff, and the 3 or 4 weeks of the holiday event. They're like, okay, it's the holiday event. Nothing else is happening. So,
did you watch anything?
We watched Soul on Disney Plus, which I thought was really good. I did kind of doze a little bit when I was watching it, but that wasn't because of the movie's fault. We watched Wonder Woman. Yeah,
I also watched Wonder Woman. That movie was bad.
It was bad because the foundation,
the writing was really,
the foundation of the
yeah.
build of the story was bad. It was more or less spending time talking about the struggles of what she's been going through for the last 50 or 60 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that wasn't taken care of well. But there was obviously a lot of plot holes. I wasn't like disappointed with my time watching that movie, and I will watch the third one just because her story like fascinates me. I think that this is just that. Let's do a little bit of character building to do something cooler in 3, which is what I feel like was happening with this one. It definitely has its holes. Let me ask you something though, because I'm really curious about this, because I kind of saw this happening on the internet around Soul and everything too. Do you think that people are being more critical because they're sitting on the couch watching this rather than going to the theater?
No, I think this is a really bad movie.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm seeing some of it around Soul and everything too. Is somebody sitting down? Do you feel like their expectations might be different because they're in their living room or in their office or in their bedroom watching something, instead of like it going out on a date or making an event to go to the movies?
They spent $30 on it and they have to spending $30.
I don't even know if it's the cost. I just wonder, like, do you think that they're like the expectation is a little bit different, and the fault of the movie companies as well, of like putting out all this stuff, like watch it from the comfort of your home. Like, I think that they're setting, like they have to market it that way to make sure that people knew. Like, if you were watching anything on Christmas Day or the week up to Christmas and you did not know you could watch Wonder Woman on HBO Max, you lived under a rock.
So I think it's less that people are watching it at home as opposed to in a theater. As I think it's more because people are just hungry for content, because there weren't a lot of new release movies this year. So I think that's what it is, where it's just like Wonder Woman, outside of Birds of Prey, were the only superhero movies we got this year. Right. There was no Marvel superhero movie. Yeah. There was supposed to be like 3 Marvel superhero movies this year too. And I think people were just like really wanted something, and it came out on Christmas Day, so everyone was together and ready to watch this thing, and then it just severely disappointed. And the same thing with Soul. There hasn't been a lot of kid movies. What was the last kid movie? Scoob?
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's just more of like people were just hungry for content and they just didn't get it. And then when they finally got it, it was just like, oh, this was a little disappointing. And that just snowballs into like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. But it also set records at the box office, which is crazy.
I mean,
too.
the record it set at the box office was like, hey, a movie made over $10 million during the pandemic.
I know, but I mean, to the point of where it's making enough money where they're like, and it terrifies me at the same time, and I think it's cool. Like, okay, like they're fast tracking Wonder Woman 3, which is kind of worrisome at the same time that they're fast tracking a movie after the struggles of 2, but at the same time, like, is 2 just being used as a bridge gap to tell a much cooler story?
I don't know if it's that. I think it's just Warner Brothers don't know what they're doing, and any bit of success they can get from their franchises, they're just going to run it.
Yeah, it sucks because Wonder Woman was like the crowning moment for DC movies, and then it's like, okay, now Wonder Woman 84 is like, oh, it's just another DC movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it immediately got knocked
sucks.
down a peg. Yeah.
So it's you know, it is worrisome. But I wasn't like a travesty or anything like that I watched that movie. It's just like
I was laughing in the moments it wasn't expecting me to laugh, or I wasn't supposed to laugh, and that's a sign of a bad movie. It has terrible pacing
problems. It has plot holes, like where I would like, wait, you know, they did like they, you know,
when you can't concisely explain the main villain's powers and how they work, you know there's an issue.
Oh, and like I said at the beginning when we started talking about that, the foundation was cracked, so whatever else you built was crooked.
Yeah. Oh god, there's so many things wrong with that movie, and it just came down to writing because like Gal Gadot, like though the writing was so bad that I was questioning whether Gal Gadot and Chris Pine were good actors, and I know they're good actors,
right? But
the writing was just so bad that I'm just like, oh shit. I turned to Sarah at one point, and I'm just like, is Gal Gadot a bad actress? And she's like, no, the first one was good. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the first one was good. Yeah. Okay, first one was good. I had to like remind myself.
It didn't happen, but like when I was talking to my wife after we watched it, like a day later, I'm like, I think we need to watch the first one again just to feel better about ourselves.
I'm just hoping they get a different writer for the third one.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's no connected universe stuff anymore with any of the DC movies or even Wonder Woman at this point.
Yeah, and then going in just before, like the weekend before we recorded, my wife and I watched all of season 3 of Cobra Kai. So
yeah, people really like that.
Yeah, have you seen any of it?
Nah, I don't have any like nostalgia for Karate Kid. So
there's a good storyline there, even if you're not a Karate Kid fan, though. Like, I think that it might be something you would enjoy. I think the season 3 did a better job of connecting it back to Karate Kid, and I feel like that's one of those things where like YouTube did the first one, and then Netflix picked it up, and then like the second one was already partially through production, and then the third one was like, okay, like this did really well, and now let's really kind of double down on what we're doing. And I feel like they doubled down on what they did. Is it going to work going into season 4? We'll find out. Like,
yeah. So, and if Netflix doesn't do their usual cancel after 3 seasons.
Well,
which they love to do.
Yeah. So and then, I mean, we watched a bunch of other stuff, like, you know, just random. Like I said, we've been watching like Man with a Plan. It's like Matt LeBlanc from Friends in it. That's just a funny 20-minute show to watch and not pay attention to all the time, but just laugh at certain moments. We went through that. So those are all things that just kind of putzing through when we come home from work. But that's pretty much it.
All right, you ready for mine?
Yeah.
Strap in. All right. So it's been 2 weeks since we talked. I didn't get to talk about it on the last proper episode, 59, but I did play a shit ton of the Back 4 Blood alpha that weekend. It was available. I might have briefly mentioned it in our episode that was on last week, but just want to praise Back 4 Blood again. Holy shit, they made a Left 4 Dead 3, and it's great, and I can't wait for more of it. The gameplay is there, the gunplay is there, the atmosphere is there, the challenge is there, like everything that you would want. They marked all those boxes, which made me so excited to get that, and it immediately just jumped to the top of my list of games for 2021, especially because Sony hasn't specifically said if like certain games are hitting this year. So like Back 4 Blood is like guaranteed coming out in June, so it's the top of my list.
Guaranteed, right? Okay, sure.
Yeah. It's the one thing we know it's coming. It already it has, so it doesn't just have a month; it has a month and a day.
Somebody clip that.
When it gets delayed till September. No, I think this is going to be like a perfect summer game. This is going to be that multiplayer game that comes out in the summer. Yeah, no, because it's going to happen. But no, like there was only like one like level available, but there is enough challenge in that level that I was curious to see what's going to happen, on higher difficulties or what the rest of the world could be. The only thing that scares me is they have a card system in this game where you basically make a deck, a loadout with different cards that have different abilities. It looks like that adds a ton of different variables into your session, especially when you're with 3 co-op partners, of all the different abilities you can have and all the different perks. The only thing that scares me is it's got a card system that can have a lot of variables, and then also could be microtransaction to hell.
Yep.
And the only reason it's scaring me, the only thing that's scaring me is it's Warner Brothers Publishing and the developers of Evolve making the game. So like, I'm just scared that they're gonna like either make this like too convoluted, or they're gonna make it microtransaction hungry. And even though I didn't interact with the card system too much, I still had fun despite the card system. So I'm hoping either the card system is actually really good, or I can ignore it exists completely, and just
or it's Lawbreakers 2.0.
I don't remember. I remember. No, Lawbreakers just had boring, like characters, I think. But like everything that they were doing in this game has me excited. This is why I struggled to purchase Left 4 Dead 2 on the Xbox Series X, because I was just like, okay, I want to play more of this, and want to do split screen co-op, because most of my friends don't play it on PC, so I can't get them to play it. So I'm just like, okay, the online still works on the Xbox version of Left 4 Dead 2. So I ended up picking up Left 4 Dead 2, playing that just a little bit. Crazy thing. So the online lobby system and all that, there's still people playing. I was able to find a match on the Xbox within like 2-3 minutes. Nice. It was kind of crazy. Yeah. I was expecting it not to go anywhere, and there was no cross-play, so I'm not playing with the PC, which is still very active. I'm playing with Xbox people. They are pretty boot happy. In terms of like this kicking people out of matches constantly. I don't know why. Like, you'd think people that are still playing Left 4 Dead 2 on the Xbox would be a little less.
Wants to play. Cool. Let's go. Let's.
Yeah. But you take a weapon and then they kick you, and you're just like, oh, come on, really? Like, calm down. So there's definitely that sort of stuff.
Why does that even exist that you could be kicked out as a random though?
I don't know. Like, you basically vote to kick players out. So, like, it was definitely a couple times where I'm in a game and I'm running around. It's like, oh, you were kicked. Like, oh, great, cool.
That's annoying.
So, yeah, that was a little annoying. But it just made me more excited for Back 4 Blood because, you know, Left 4 Dead 2 is a really old game that's like 10 years plus old. So, it's a little janky. And Back 4 Blood felt modern and current. So, really excited to jump into that. And I think it's like June something. So, so then over on the Switch, I picked up Grindstone, which is from Capybara. Cappy, they did like Below, OK, KO,
all right,
Critter Crunch.
Michael Innuendo's games. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Popular games. Not looter shooters. Yeah, so this one is a puzzle match game. Basically, you go into dungeons and you have to make it to the exit by going through enemies, but you have to like match the colors of the enemies to like get through like the pattern and collect stuff on the way. Really cute, fun game that like I guess Cappy does have a specific art style, because when I saw this game, I immediately knew what developers made this game, and I never realized.
So,
I never realized that they had a style that I can easily identify. But when I saw,
I also feel like something like that, when you watch a trailer, it makes you feel safe for validation, or a safer validation in your purchase.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it was one of those things where I'm just going through the eShop during the holidays to see what's on sale, and I saw that, and I saw the art style. I'm like, that looks like a cat, and then
without
I click it.
Without even knowing who making it, you're like, okay, that's you know, like that's always great. So
yeah, and it's great. The gameplay. I love puzzle matching games. I'm a sucker for those. But the gameplay is really fun. It has
which is super surprising to me when you say something like that, because I don't think you like very many mobile games at all, and that's what like the core of mobile games are.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried playing some mobile games. And I just can never get into them. But like this, playing on my Switch has been really good. there's a lot of replayability because there's like mini objectives when you're in the middle of like a puzzle to where it's like, oh, this specific type of enemy, the only way to get to him is you need to kill like 10 enemies before you can hit him. So you have to color combo 10 enemies to get to that person. And then they might drop a key then that works in a chest that's over here. So then you have to figure out a way to pattern your way over to the chest. So there's like mini objectives as opposed to just get to the exits, which you could do that where you just constantly just go to the exit. But there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. It does get very difficult, especially if you want to get all of the side objectives each match. So I kind of hit a wall right now, but it's just been one of those things since, I stopped playing Hades, where it's just nice to have a game on a Switch that you just pop on a couch and you watch something else and you play it handheld and just, go through it.
Yeah, my Switch is like physically attached to Owen's hands now. So, because we bought him Pikmin 3 and I don't really get to play the Switch very much.
Yeah, it's you made a mistake. You're going to have to buy a Switch Lite eventually.
I'm very tentative to buy a second Switch. I've thought about it, like I was like, just because obviously Owen's playing it.
You might have to get it soon before he gets too attached to the games on your Switch, and then he can't transfer any of them over.
Yeah, he doesn't care about
or
that.
his saves. Yeah,
but
eventually he's going to get attached.
The concern is the rumors of another version of Switch, like a Switch Pro or something like that. And I feel like as soon as I pull the trigger on it, like that's a concern of like if I buy a Switch Lite, because that's probably what I would buy him, would be a Switch Lite. But then I'm almost like, okay, if there's going to be a better Switch coming, let me buy the better Switch, and then he can just have the older one. Like,
yeah, you might want to wait to E3 before you do one, or whatever the hell E3 is going to be.
Yeah. So random Nintendo Direct on April 22nd at 5 in the morning. Yeah,
probably. Or tonight they'll do their usual, like in 6 hours there's going to be a Nintendo Direct. Then I've been playing. I still have from GameFly NBA 2K21. It is definitely I've turned into that boyfriend who's just playing 2K all the time, and I feel shitty about it.
How much are you paying for GameFly a month?
It's like $12 a month. I got the first month free. Okay. I'm gonna get the Pathless next.
Yeah, I'm actually tempted to buy that. I watched a trailer for that. Yeah, I was like, all right, I might just buy that because I can't.
I'm just desperate for PS5 games.
Yeah, well, I have plenty of stuff to play on the Xbox that I could just play, but I want to play the new shiny thing, and GameFly is not an option for me because I have a digital version, which is fine, and it just makes me be, like I've said before, it just makes me be a little bit more on purpose and thoughtful with my purchases.
Yeah, well, no, I just feel bad just because Sarah's been playing Dragon Age on my PC, and she just hears the basketball game going, but it's mostly just because since I'm not going out anymore, and like my commute to work is a little different now, it's a lot faster. I just need something to listen to podcasts to. So I just been playing the basketball game on the lowest volume with my earbuds in to listen.
So she just randomly hears this like dribbling,
basically, and occasionally, yeah, and me laughing at a podcast every couple minutes. It's just been that thing where I just like. I turned into, she's like, hey, we got to go somewhere in 20 minutes. Like, okay, cool. I could get 2 quarters in. I've turned into that fucking guy. Because it's like, cool, let me get a quarter in. And I think the problem is like the game just loads too fast. Yep. So it's so fucking easy to just be like, I'm just going to get into a game. Are you playing the PS5
version or the Xbox version?
Yeah.
Okay.
PS5. Yeah.
So it's like, it's before it'd be like, oh, like this is what I talked about with Destiny, like on our Patreon episode of like, where like, I got 45 minutes before I go to work. And before it'd be like, well, it's going to take me 12 minutes to load up into Destiny and go to the tower and then play a match, and then I don't have enough time to load up and play another match. But now it's like it's crazy. Like I woke up today and I turned Spider-Man on. It was still in rest mode, and it was just I clicked it, and there I was on the perch in New York City, and it was just done. And I was just like,
we had to go somewhere for like Christmas, to her parents that aren't too far, and it was like, oh, we got to leave in 10 minutes, and I'm just like, that's just enough time for 1 quarter of basketball. And then it just loads instantly. I play the quarter, and then you can save the game. I know it's been a feature in 2K games for a while, but you can save wherever you are in the game. And then that's even better, because then when I got home, I just hit the on button on the PlayStation, and my game was loaded up.
There it is. It's like
I was doing an inbounds pass.
Are you gonna buy it?
No, because I feel like I need to just like go cold turkey on it. Like as soon as I finish my season, dude, I've only had it for like a week or like 2 weeks now, and I think I'm like 35 games into my season. So it's just like let me just finish the season and I'll be done with it.
Okay.
All right, my list isn't done yet. Been playing a lot of River City Girls on Xbox through Game Pass. Cool beat 'em up that's like inspired by anime. The gameplay's good, the art style is good. The music is fucking amazing. I love the music in this game. It's a local co-op, so me and Sarah have been playing it. Really like that. Won't talk too much about it. I think it's might be like 2-3 years old by now. If you like beat 'em ups, it's got a ton of personality. It's really funny.
I need to get Angela to play a game like Overcooked with me or something.
Moving Out is the Game Pass game that is really fun.
Okay.
Been playing Avengers. Been going through that. I like the story.
I'm not touching that until the next gen upgrade. So.
Yeah, I just got impatient, so I'm like going through the story. I don't give a shit about any of the multiplayer stuff. I haven't even touched that. So I've just been going through the story. I think the character moments are really good. Like I love all the cute character moments with Kamala. I think some of the writing is bad in terms of like the overarching story for that game can be kind of bad, especially like the beginning premise of like she won a fanfic contest.
Yeah.
I think that's like cringe.
But each individual
like,
cutscene of like Iron Man talking to Banner with Kamala Khan there, like that dialogue and banter and writing is so good. Like in terms of small increments like that, those cutscenes make me want to like play. Made me want to play to see what would happen next. But yes, you're right. Like the overarching thing is like, eh.
Yeah, like my favorite moment in the game is super early on, and it's just when like Kamala is drinking like her big soda with Bruce in the car, and there's no dialogue or anything, and it's like my favorite moment. Like it has a lot of great little moments like that. So going through that, it's a really slow grind for me for that. And then I did the thing where I'm playing old games just because they're available, either through backwards compatibility or through Game Pass. Mirror's Edge, Xbox Game Pass. I loved that game back in the day. I played it for like an hour, and I probably am going to stop there because it just kind of has the old game is old vibe. It still looks gorgeous. It's still like...
Oh, they always look great, but then you're like, wait, I can't grapple the wall, I can't run, I can't, like as an example.
There's something with the movement that it's just like I'm kind of.
I have to hold down both
it.
triggers and up on the D-pad and push a button.
Yeah, it's weird stuff to where it's like controller stuff where it's just like, oh, why did they do this with the controller? Oh, they fixed this in Catalyst, but this is the first one. And then so I'm gonna stop there. And then Vanquish on the PS4.
Oh, cool.
Playing that. I remember loving the demo on PS3. I think I played the demo a shit ton on a PS3. Played about an hour. Think I'm gonna stop there. The cutscenes, some of the character models.
A new monthly show. Did you play the game for more than 60 minutes? We'll talk about it.
Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff that like slaps
Game
you
Pass
over
game,
the head.
over under 60 minutes. That's our rating system.
Dude, these are the games that I wrote that were noticeable, like were notable, because there's more. Vanquish was one of those things where it's like, it just constantly slapped me in the face of being like, yeah, this is an old PS3 game. And it's just like, okay, yeah, this is. Like, it runs better because they remastered, heavy quotes, the game for PS4. It just runs at a higher frame rate. That game looks ugly. So I'm just going through that, and I'm just going to stop there. And then I'll probably have a whole new list because I just downloaded a shit ton of Game Pass games. Then I'm going through my PS5/4 library, and I'm trying to find like all the short games in my backlog that I haven't like beat. So I'm going to probably start Titanfall 2 this week. Just because... Sure, I heard it's like 4 hours long, so I'm like, okay, cool. It's a doable game that I can beat and get it out of my backlog and off my PS5.
I think you should. I don't know if you're gonna have time, and I know you heard I know you're not a huge fan of it, but I would recommend you at least dabbling in Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order.
I was thinking about it just because I've been watching Mandalorian, so I'm like, oh, Star Wars stuff isn't too bad. But I don't know.
I think you would
I'm
like
looking
it.
for short games I can beat. No, I'm probably sure I would like it, but like I just don't know. Like 2K loads really fast. Like the amount of time I'm putting in a 2K is
I
really
would love to go back to
fucking
Fallen Order
destroying.
on Xbox. I'm just I don't. It's I was hoping there'd be some kind of cross save functionality, so I don't got to start over because I played it on my Origins on
Yeah.
PC.
Yeah, and you played a decent chunk of
Yeah,
it,
I
right?
was really close. I should probably just bite the bullet and pay the $10 for Origins and just finish it.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for playing. Watching. We already talked about Wonder Woman. Insert Coin is a documentary that's like the history of Midway Games, like the arcade company that made Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, and a bunch of other like arcade hits. It's a pretty good documentary. It only covers like their arcade uh, era. Like it doesn't really talk about after the arcades died, how Midway was purchased by Warner Brothers and how Midway eventually like shut down and closed. It doesn't go over any of that. It only talks about like the arcade scene from like the 80s to like the end of the 90s. But it's really good. It was made by one of the people that worked at Midway, so he had a bunch of home videos that he was able to splice into all the interviews. Uh, Midway Games is one of those things where like I had a an odd fondness and nostalgia for them just because they're a Chicago studio that I used to pass by all the time. If Advent Rip is still in the chat, me and him used to play basketball in their basketball court that they had in their parking lot, and the security would occasionally kick us out of. So it was just cool seeing like this where it was just basically like this warehouse looking building that said Midway Games, but just to see all the cool shit that was happening inside that building, like around the corner from our school, was really cool to watch. Um, so recommend that documentary. Weird thing is, they didn't interview Ed Boon,
Uh-huh.
who Ed Boon is like the Midway guy, the creator of Mortal Kombat, and they got everyone else from that studio to be interviewed, but Ed Boon, and I'm wondering if that's just because he still works on Mortal Kombat, and Warner Brothers just wouldn't let him do
Yeah.
like the documentary.
Tell all. Like,
Uh,
no, you still work for us, bud.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that I found weird because he's in a lot of the videos. They talk about Ed Boon, but sometimes when they talk about how great he was and how much of a genius he was, it almost sounds like he's dead, but he's very much alive. Like he tweets often. So it was just a little weird because they're just like talking about Ed Boon in like the past tense, and it's just like he's still around. Like, please, guys, say that he's still around. So I found that just a little like odd. But that's it for my list. There's a shit ton more backwards compatible games I could talk about, but I've only played like less than like maybe 30 minutes for some of them. So
All right.
that's the problem with Game Pass.
Yeah, it's the Netflix of video games. There's good, like 80% of it's not great. So, but the 20% that's there is solid. All right, so we're gonna jump into questions and comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can post them on the Facebook group. You can post them on our Facebook page. You can post them on Twitter. You can post them in Discord, wherever. We'll find them. You can email us, podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. So Stefan Wren writes, should I get an Xbox just to play Flight Simulator? No.
You have a backlog, sir.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that. I don't think it's out on Game Pass just yet.
Well, it's on Game Pass, but on Game Pass on PC.
Yeah, it's not on the Series X just yet. I
Coming.
don't know.
It's coming to the series. It's not coming to the Xbox Ones. It's going to be one of the first things.
Yeah. It's because like I don't know how this is going to run on a Series X, let alone how it would have ran if they try to bring it to the older gen.
Yeah.
Man, I bought this system with less incentive. So you actually have incentive to buy it, but I would wait to see how that game runs on a Series X before committing to it, because that game's fucking crazy.
If
Like
you're
kind
really
of obsessed.
that enamored with a flight simulator game, which is cool, I would you could probably get a PC. I don't know, like in terms of it would probably be expensive to get a PC that would run that well, but
Yeah, but I guess if you're committing to Game Pass and an Xbox Series X, you could probably put some extra money into a PC
yeah,
to play it the proper way, which
yeah,
would be on PC. But holy shit, like I'm totally gonna download it because I have that option. But like
yeah.
I'll know I'm playing the inferior version because that is
Uh,
like made for PC. Have you seen some of the
oh yeah, I
flight
guess they just
simulator
like
stuff?
added dynamic snow to it like this week or something as well.
Yeah, I think they've added more like detailed to territories as well.
Yeah,
Dude, it's so crazy, like how realistic that game is and how it's kind of just turned into an internet thing where like I think people are still doing like the Twitch stream thing where they're like have the Twitch chat fly the plane, and it hasn't turned into a complete train wreck,
yeah,
surprisingly. But the scene with stuff people are modding in, and the scene like that game relies heavily on AI to like build out like the world,
uh-huh.
and to seeing how the AI will occasionally just fuck up and make weird like mountains and have buildings that are way too big for like
Yeah,
what they actually are, has been really fascinating to watch. Like if you want to fall down a YouTube rabbit hole, look up weird like flight simulator glitches and like all the weird mods people are doing with that game.
yeah. So Robert Cartwright writes, "What is the best free game you have played? I've been playing Genshin Impact, the Zelda knockoff. It's one of the best free games I've ever played." Go first, Michael.
So I don't know if it's the best, but it's my favorite. I think Apex Legends was like one of the best. Like it was announced like one day and it was released either the same day or like a couple days later. That was like the best like drop and release in the servers were stable, and I think there's a really good game there at its core. Um, I was trying to think back to like some of the PS3 era games, and the only one I can think of is like DC Universe, which I don't think launched as a free to play game. I think that turned into a free to play game.
Right.
So those are the two that popped into my head for like which free to play games were like good or the best.
Yeah.
Um, for me at least.
Destiny? No, kidding. um, no, I guess I mean I don't dabble in free to play too much. Was Warface free to play that the company had a second?
Warface was
Yeah.
that yeah.
Um,
You played Warframe, right? Because that's like
no, I
Destiny.
didn't. Warframe was broken when I first tried it. So like,
Oh, okay.
and now I feel like I'm like too far behind. I would guess the most recent one that comes to mind that I played, and I played it for like a week or so, was Dauntless.
Okay,
Yeah, I
and that
had
was
it.
on everything too,
Yeah,
right?
I had a good time with Dauntless. It was like Monster Hunter Light. So,
Yeah.
and I know they just released a huge update for Dauntless. It sounds like they changed a bunch of stuff in there. Genshin is interesting to me, just because I do like the Zelda, um, Immortals, Phoenix Rising kind of feel like build around that world. The Breath of the
Mhm.
Wild basis of it. I'm not hearing very great things about Genshin's like progression system. So
Yeah,
and
it's a
then
gotcha game,
yeah,
so it's like
so
a lot of unlocks and stuff.
I'm staying away from it so it doesn't get me. But
I think it's too anime for you.
I mean, if the gameplay is fun, like I don't, like I don't care. But um, the stuff that I've seen when I've seen like Johnny's a Boy play it and a couple other people that I've watched stream and stuff like that, and it seems like you're getting caught up on buying a whole bunch of stuff, and like I'm at a at its core, that's what it's supposed to be, and that's fine. And it can stay over there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, a game just popped into my head and I forgot it instantly. I think Pain went free to play on PS3 at one point. That was a weird game that was free to play that I just played way too much
I have
because that came out.
I have messed with a lot of like free to play games just because like Star Trek, they
Online?
yeah, in our previous lives I was the kind of the guy that would stream and give away codes, like some of the Neverwinter games. I have messed with some of those for a little bit, but nothing ever like that MMO style, not like Final Fantasy, even like none of that stuff ever really like grabbed me to want to like play it and grind it out. It just never really seemed to like appeal to my niche, which is actually kind of surprising with as much as I do like grinding content, like whether I'm playing Division or Destiny. The fact that some of these other games have never like drew my attention, like even like a Diablo, I'm just like, like I don't really want to play it. It looks cool, it sounds cool. Everybody's like, you can do all this stuff in it, and I don't have any justification reason for why something does or doesn't grab my attention. Like Destiny is a great first person shooter, Division's a solid third person shooter. But even like when like a game like Godfall, like where it's like, hey, like this is a slasher looter, I'm like, hey, cool, and then I look at it more, I'm like, no, I'm just like, I'm good. So it's just really hard to tell. But then a game like Outriders like looks very appealing to me. So, but that's not a free to play game. So,
The answer is RuneScape. The answer is RuneScape. That's the best free to play game.
Oh, okay. But then even what is it? Spellbound always looked interesting to me too. Like if you haven't checked out Spellbound, that's like I guess like a
Quidditch, Harry Potter.
Yeah, battle royale,
Rocket League.
Yeah,
but not the one that got like ceased and desist out of existence.
Right.
It's a different.
So like those are pretty cool. Spellbound always looked really interesting to me to like, and that that game just seemed to hit for a little while and then go away, which is kind of what I feel like Genshin did as well, and it did a great job for 5, 6, 7 months, and then it kind of like fell off. And the people that are hooked on it are always hooked on it, and the people that are like, okay, I'm done, they're done. So that's just how those games function. So, all right. So thank you guys so much for listening to our first episode of 2021. I think that is all that we have. We are going to try to make a little bit more of a dedicated effort to streaming. Michael and I were just talking about that before we recorded. Some of it has to do with, like we have some pretty cool things that when we both stream, like from our PCs, like our overlays and alerts. But then at the same time, like we've been kind of realizing that playing on our couches has been a lot more fun lately. So we might start doing stuff. Yeah, we might start doing a little bit more stuff through share systems, through Xbox's streaming service, through PlayStation streaming service, which means the possibility of like no webcams. So which would also mean that you guys hanging out in chat and conversating would be a little bit more meaningful, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. We understand that everybody's busy and everybody has things that they're doing, but just stopping in, saying hi, asking some questions is always helpful. So we will look into trying to figure something out. I still want to do something, and I haven't really like sat down and really looked at it, but I think that you guys might be entertained with, a couple co-op games with my wife. I do have 2 Xbox controllers now, so in terms of like there's probably some really cool co-op games on Game Pass that we could definitely mess with. And I think it could be something as simple as I do still have that Blue Yeti microphone that I could put on a mic stand and plug it into my controller and just set it on my coffee table so that you could hear my wife and I talking or her struggling. And then, I could also just see I have another webcam. I just need to mess with some stuff and really take some dedicated time to it. And I might have to do that when I get back overnights just to see. It might be a faraway view, but you could probably still see my wife try to like steer something with a controller that's not motion based, like as she's turning her entire body to turn a vehicle. Thanks again for listening through the holidays, giving us the feedback, allowing us to do this and to take a break, and you guys to continue to listen to the shows. It's always super appreciative, and for even like for somebody like my wife that she edited 3 or 4 pieces of content within like a 2-day span, and then she got some time off too. So it's always appreciative, and like we've already. Just being back on Twitch already, we've already seen our sub number go up while we've been recording, so we appreciate that. Check out our shirts if you want. I've got one of them on the stream, the Digital Days Gaming hoodie, which I really like. So you guys can check out. It's a Teesprings account. The links are in the show, in the show notes, along with can't talk everything else, social media links to Facebook group, Discord, all that stuff. Follow us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at FirstMJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. And we also have a Patreon if you choose to support us. Maybe, as you're setting your budgets for 2021, you can throw us a buck to help, hopefully pay for an event that we can go to, whether it's PAX or E3, to help, offset the cost of flights or to buy a game. Like I would love to be in a situation that, if Michael wants to check out Pathless or whatever, not through Gamefly or myself checking out Pathless, we can make the decision as DDG to purchase a game. And you guys can do that through Patreon, through Twitch support. Not looking to get rich. I'm not looking to quit. We're not looking to quit our jobs as much as we probably would love to, and to do this more often. It just doesn't seem like that's something that's in the cards, and that's 100% okay. But just looking to pay the bills and produce quality content for you guys. So, you got anything else, bud?
No, that's it. We'll just we're back into streaming the podcast every week, so we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Hope everyone has a great week, an awesome new year, and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick.